Hey.
Hey, Alex.
Hey.
Are we? Is it live now? The podcast?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Cool. So
Wow,
we're just
straight
waiting.
on.
We're just waiting for David to join. Are we?
Okay.
Yeah. So any moment.
Took me a second to get, I just got the link and email just now, so.
Yeah, I'm sure he's just about to get it.
Hey, there.
Oh, there's David. Mr. Tisch, how are you?
Hey.
Hi, Alex.
So
Alex,
What's up?
Alex, your background looks nicer than my background.
Looks like you're in a closet.
I might be. You guys will never know.
Cool. Well,
There's a whole company over there.
Oh, okay.
I've
So
isolated myself in a corner.
This is our last hangout every week for a number of weeks. We've done a series of hangouts that we then share with all our startups afterwards about kind of conferences and how to get the most out of it. For many of the startups exhibiting, they're first-time entrepreneurs. They might have been to other conferences. For some of them, it's their first time certainly at a very large international conference. And so we've tried to help provide some useful, almost do's and don'ts.
I think the answer is just cold email with a copy and paste everybody who's attending the conference.
You're inviting trouble.
I'll show you my inbox. You guys, they're listening to that advice.
So I'd love kind of an intro. I might go first to you, Alex, and then to you, David. I can just, Alex, just first of all, I guess you exhibited in 2012. You also won the startup competition. The last 2 years has been an incredible story for the company, and you recently sold to Samsung for an incredible $200 million. It's just, I mean, it's been an incredible 24 months and some more. But I'd love to, just get an overview of the company first and foremost.
yeah, it's been a crazy ride for the last couple of years. So we, Smartthings was really in the early formative stages when we were there. We had just completed our Kickstarter campaign, and I guess our goal was, and still is, to bring the smart home to the mass market. So make every home in the world a smart home, and do that in a way that was a little bit different than anything that had been tried before. The goal was, make it really simple for everyday people, but then also do it as an open platform that would connect to, device makers and developers all over the world to sort of let them build apps for the physical world and for the smart home as well. So it's a little bit about what we do. Vision has remained consistent since then, but we hadn't even shipped when we were there at the Web Summit. It was like literally a month after the Kickstarter campaign, so it has indeed been a crazy ride for 2 years.
And Alex, the next company you do is going to fix Google Hangouts so that they work a little better?
If it's still a problem, when they're not done, we'll see.
All right.
David?
I'm David Tisch. I run a small fund called BoxGroup. We're a seed stage investment fund based in New York City. We're an investor in about 180 startups. About 60% of them are in New York, 25% in San Francisco, and 15% elsewhere. We were the first investors in companies like Vine and GroupMe and Smartthings, which have exited, and companies like Blue Apron and ClassPass and Flatiron Health and Oscar, which are growing fantastically right now. And on the side of that, I started a company about a year and a half ago with my brother called Spring, which we launched 3 months ago. Spring is the easiest way to shop on your phone. And we have about 450 brand partners that post directly to Spring products that are for sale. And so we're working with companies like Helmut Lang and Theory, Rag & Bone and Marc Jacobs, and another 446 brands that are selling on Spring today. So go download Spring if you're in the U.S. on your own phone.
So great, and you've also backed an Irishman, Oisin Hanrahan, I think.
By accident, he didn't tell me that.
Okay, good. So Yeah, I'd love to start kind of, well, it's really an open question to kind of both of you. So aside from kind of carpet bombing 20,000 people, including offering a partner in Sequoia the opportunity to build his mobile app, what's the kind of, let's start with just kind of say a startup attending, and they happen to be exhibiting. And Alex, you did this in 2012, and I was blown away. I remember speaking with you at the time about the kind of the amount of preparation you guys did in advance. It was incredibly impressive. There's a few days left until people get on planes and fly into Dublin from around the world. What do you think they should be focusing on over the next few days in preparation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot you're going to do by just learning when you're there. But I'll say it again. I think we did the right thing in having enough people there. So it wasn't just me. We had a few of the team members there. There's going to be so much opportunity at the conference that you want to be able to go through all the sort of back channels and have lots of side meetings and spend a lot of time with people. So we had a team of 4 or 5 people that came over just so we could have critical mass to be able to have the conversations that are possible. And then the little details really matter. So in the booth, we realized once we got there, that there wasn't very good signage, that we had. So we literally went out into Dublin, found an electronics store, kid you not, bought a TV and took it back with the taxi with a mount to figure out how to put a big video screen in our booth, because we had this prototype hardware to show off. So a lot of little details, just getting there in advance. And I don't know, Patty, if we broke into the conference center or how we got in so early.
Yeah, no, you actually broke in the day before. It was incredibly impressive, and you guys walked the entire venue, and it was almost like a military exercise. You did a reconnaissance mission the day before and figured out where were the places you guys should kind of Delta Team 6 should be over here. It was pretty impressive in hindsight. To switch to you, David. Yeah.
I'd just say, just in addition to cold in the conference list, you guys should definitely also break in the day before, trying to sneak by security. You're welcome, Patty.
David?
Yeah, I mean, summarizing what Alex just said is, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it keeps going with
Anyone? I don't know. We're better? Okay. So summarizing what Alex just said, you should play to win, and you shouldn't just show up. And I think that that's the way that I would look at it. Like Alex showed up and said, what do I need to do to stand out now? And it's not, what do I need to do? Is there a crazy?
We can hear you.
Okay. I think you need to strategic. There's some crazy everything going on. I hear my Alex. Maybe is somebody on speaker? I don't know. Anyway,
if it helps,
you can hear me, okay, Alex? So I think you have to have a strategy, and you have to do what your company is going to be best at. And instead of trying to be spammy, instead of trying to be loud, figure out how to strategically be great. And if that for your company means showing something off visually, do that. If that for your company means winning on stage with your demo, do that. If that means being great at having one-on-one sites, do that. But I think the key is strategy and execute that strategy at a world-class level that's going to stand out above and beyond everybody else at the conference. And knowing that there are 20,000 people, knowing that there are 100 startups on stage, it's challenging to win. And I think that the companies that come in with a strategy that say we're not just going to show up, we're not just going to go through the motions, and we're not just going to be low quality are the ones that can stand out and rise above the noise.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Alex, anything to add?
Yeah. No, I mean, I just think that if you, as an example there, I watched other companies when we were there in 2012, and there were more, mobile local social apps, right? And they weren't really standing out from one another. And even in those cases where you're in an established space, you have to really look for a way to stand out. Could be the quality of your presentation and your team, or it's the standout nature of your sort of unique product. But if you're not feeling it there, with enough coverage, you're not going to get the outcome you want.
Yeah, and I think the mistake that a lot of companies will make is that they assume that the outsiders, the investors, the press, the audience are there to see them, and instead they're actually not. They're there to see who stands up and rises above the noise more than they are in search of. Like, I'm not going there with a checkbook next week, right? I'm not looking to hand over money. That's not the way that investors work. So what instead we're doing is looking for people that are outliers, that stand out, that are interesting enough to have another conversation with. And so instead of approaching it with a transactional matter of guy who has check, want check, give me check, it's instead, I want to make friends with somebody. I want to get to know them. Most people might not like me. I'm pretty loud, I'm obnoxious, I'm sarcastic. So if you don't want my money because you don't like me, you shouldn't ask for it. So the only way to know that is to get to know me first. Now, what I'm not also doing is setting up 10-minute meetings with every company at the conference to get to know them. And so what instead I'm looking for is somebody that's doing something that cuts through the noise, that rises above the pack to stand out. And I think that Alex and the way that everything that Smartthings has done since they started rose above the noise. Their Kickstarter video, their Kickstarter campaign, their appearances at conferences, the talks that Alex was able to establish himself as a thought leader in a very noisy space by being great, not by being loud.
Great, that's a compelling piece of advice. So if David, somebody, some startup does corner you over a pint of Guinness on a pub crawl, what advice would you just give that startup? And because sometimes you're an entrepreneur, you're passionate about your company, you just want to download everything immediately to you and give you the kind of 30-minute heart and soul story. What would your advice be?
To understand the context of the situation and not, again, it's about not viewing everything as a transaction. So just because we ran into each other at a bar doesn't mean, again, that I'm looking to hand you money. That's not the way that investing works. So your goal is simply to make a connection that makes me want to talk to you more. And that's the way that I would approach it if you run into somebody, is to start a relationship. Imagine you're meeting a girl or a guy or whatever else out for the first time, and you want to take that person on a date. What you don't do is say, here's everything I've ever thought of in my whole life, and do you want in? Right? You show your best foot forward.
I'll tell you the things yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you put your best foot forward and you flirt, right? And you do something that makes the other person, you try to switch the leverage, right? You'd be so great that you make me want to ask you out for that next meeting. And I think that the only way to do that is to develop a rapport versus go for the kill.
Yeah. I mean, I think the things, I don't know if it'll hurt the event, Patty, but one thing we did not do is we did not go to like the they'll have some investors standing at some tables and like the 5-second hackathon of like talking to the investors.
We've done away with that. We've moved to something different.
So, stuff like that just doesn't work, and we didn't even know that we wanted to raise money. David will think I'm insane, from there, but we did not go to Dublin with the intent of getting a check at all. The goal was simply to learn from the startup ecosystem, what are others doing in the space, and then help people understand Smartthings. And the sort of natural, relaxed conversations across the team unfolded in a way where, we'd already met David, but we met some of our other best seed investors there at the conference, because through the course of events, we had casual conversations, and then they sought us out to talk more.
Fantastic. So I'm trying to think of other just kind of little strategies that are useful for early stage startups over the course of their kind of 3 days in Dublin. When it comes to kind of what would you say about Alex? I think you're a very social person. David, you are as well. You don't tend to how do I kind of explain this? For me, I think many of the best connections that you build or relationships that you build at a conference, it's not necessarily kind of 9 to 5. And if you're a startup, I think you have to recognize that it's simply not, the job isn't done at 5 o'clock. It's about, you gotta go, you really should You should be going to parties. You should try, and in Dublin we do pub crawls. You should try and get on a pub crawl. I don't know. What about you guys? What have you found in the different conferences? You've got so many conferences over time.
I can't tell you the number of times that, so my wife has a phrase that I don't know if it's politically incorrect or not. I don't think so. It's sort of, you can get free popcorn from the popcorn, so be nice to everybody. I can't tell you the number of times I've been in a place where all of the side conversations, you never know how they're going to filter back into something really important. And you have to go in with that attitude. So if you go in targeting Tisch for cornering time with him, and you treat other people on the side of him like transactions, you'll be surprised that his best bud there that has a negative impression of you, that sort of that comes across, and so on. And so I think you have to go and absolutely go to the back, all of the all the parties and all the sort of time spent with people. All those little opportunities, and be nice to everybody about your company. Try to help people learn about what you're doing, learn about what they're doing, and again, you'll never, that'll come back. That the fruits of that will come back to you with time.
David?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things, right? Is again, it's having a longer term view on things, and so show don't tell is one of the key things I would say is entrepreneurs that just show up without anything to show. An idea is the last thing that I think an investor or somebody's looking to hear about. I think if you have a beautiful product, somebody will look at it. I think if you have an interesting story, somebody will listen to it. But if you're just going in and you have this 1 minute opportunity to chat with somebody, and your move is, let me pitch, that's not, to me, the way to approach it. And so do I think going out and going on a pub crawl or going to a party makes sense? Sure. I think you're just increasing the chance of having a quality interaction with somebody, and I think that's a good thing.
Great. I think it's sleep on the plane. You can survive on fumes for 3 or 4 days in Dublin, hopefully. So just got some questions that people are kind of posting. So Chris Adams asks for both Alex and David, why you do what you do? What drives you to reach your goals? I'm just reading as is. I'm not translating.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll half speak for Alex here. I think we both love what we do. We do this out of passion, and I love early stage companies. I love the very beginnings of somebody's taking their idea and making it real, and seeing that happen is my passion. And we get excited. We've invested in 180 companies, and when somebody asks me what my favorite company is, it's the last one we invested in. That's why we invested. We got so excited with that thing that we invested, and so that's the juice that drives me.
Right. Next question.
Yeah, I mean, well put. I just add to that. I mean, I think it's like, what is the meaning of life, right? I mean, it's to have an idea or a vision for something and see that manifest in the world. Like you have that opportunity to create and change. So that's definitely not the money. That's the motivation.
Good. So next question is, it has to do with just planning your days. How when you're going to a conference, do you look at the schedule of talks, and do you figure out what talks you're going to go to, or is it more a case of just serendipity and just kind of going with the flow and just being there is the most important thing, or how do you optimize for your time, David?
I pick the things that I'm good at, or what I need or what I want. I don't. I think spray and pray or go wide is not necessarily the best strategy. I don't drink, so what I'm not going to do is assume that I'm going to win the bar game, right? I'm not going to impress people by my consumption of Guinness. It's where I would lose, and so instead I'll find other opportunities to build rapport, and I think that's my strength. And I don't do well in large groups of social gatherings. I'm better in one-on-one situations, and so I look for those opportunities. And I think each person has a different skill set, and they should use that skill set to their advantage versus trying to be what they're not.
Patty, one comment on that I'd say is, for me, I pick the two or three things that are really important during the day, and I make sure that I have enough space built around them that I can get myself into a clear space for it. If you pack your schedule with every little minute, then you're gonna fall on the ones that you think really matter and not be relaxed for them. And second, you want to leave enough time for those serendipitous meetings. So I'll pick like two or three things, build in my half hour before the on-stage presentation, and then I'll like literally keep the rest free so I can let a little bit of that serendipitous stuff happen as well. But don't overpack it.
And okay, so here's a question we can't actually avoid. So, if startups are going to send emails, and unfortunately they are going to send you emails, David, and we've got 20,000 people coming to Dublin, and I could argue that there are more startups around the world coming to Dublin. There's 2,150 startups exhibiting in Dublin. So there's a lot of entrepreneurial and enterprising entrepreneurs, and they're going to send you emails. So if anybody is sending an email, what advice would you give them in terms of actually sending you that email so that it doesn't feel like spam?
Yeah, don't spam. Pretty straightforward. If you send me a copy and paste pitch, I send you a copy and paste rejection, right? It goes two ways. I have this really nice copy and paste rejection that says, thank you so much, really appreciate the opportunity, not a fit for us. And I hit copy and paste, and you get that back. And so instead, if you actually send an interesting email that cuts through the noise, I'll respond with an interesting response. And I think that, again, each thing you do, you should do great. You shouldn't just do it. And so when we get it and it's like, dear sir or madam, that was a layup. You could have figured that one out, right? And so I think that those are the low-quality interactions that I would avoid because the probability of success there is just minimal. And so, referring to something that catches my eye in the subject line or in that first sentence, you know how Gmail works. Gmail will show you that first sentence of an email. Take advantage of that. Don't hide your personalization to the last paragraph. Probably didn't get there.
Always entertaining. Alex, do you have anything to add? I guess you're in a slightly different kind of category in a sense, in that being an investor, unfortunately, going to a technology conference, you do tend to you're kind of like a pop star.
I get a lot of emails because our platform is open, but also now I'm running smart home and IoT for the biggest consumer electronics company in the world, so I get a lot of other just inbounds on that. I think that the everything that David said, I don't want to say this, I don't read email that much, so
Alex
it's not in real time, and it's super tough to cut through the noise.
Yeah, Alex barely responds to emails to his own investors, so I don't know how to get through his inbox. You text him. That's about it.
Man. But you better have, as David said, you don't spam. Spend the time to really understand somebody and something that's unique about them, or something they did at the conference, or a reason that you wanted to them. And if you don't have it, bother with that channel. It'll only sort of demean you, I think.
Yeah, to Alex, investors have so much information out there, whether it's a video like this. If you Google an investor, you can read their blog, their Twitter, their videos. And if you do that work, you know how to connect with that person. If you don't do that work, you're going to miss. And so I think what I get frustrated with is when the entrepreneurs aren't doing the work that they can do, it shows me that they're going to take shortcuts in the wrong ways. And so if your assumption is you can just bypass the work, I'm going to assume that that's how you're going to approach your company as well.
Wow, that's a really great piece of advice. So we we always try to keep these to about 25 minutes. So I want to go back to both of you with just
Patty, is that for the hairstyle that you're going to be wearing next week?
I've got to get my hair cut. Yeah. Have a shave.
I was expecting it a little bigger, but whatever.
Yeah, it's the wrong time of year. The humidity isn't good for my hair. So I have. So we if there was to be one final, we've heard lots of different pieces of very helpful advice, in particular for first-time attendees at the Web Summit, or indeed at a large conference, in particular for startups. But just to focus back on any, is there any singular piece of advice that if people were not to heed most of the stuff that you've said, what one piece of advice do you think would make the biggest difference to the impact that a startup can make over their 3 days and 4 nights in Dublin? And so the same question is going to kind of both of you, and I might go to Alex first, and then go to David. Is that okay? And then we'll wrap up. Alex?
That's a tough one. But I mean, I guess I'd say be yourself there. If you're over pitching, if you're nervous, all those other things, just try to ground yourself. I mean, the people that could help your business and idea are definitely there. It's an incredible ecosystem. Just try to, like what I was talking about, giving yourself enough space before the things that really matter in the day. Just try to be yourself. Like investors are going to invest in human beings as much as a product or anything else. So ground yourself before you go.
Right, David?
I mean, sort of expanding on that, I think to me, there's sort of this notion that reading everything out there and just doing what it says is the way to win. And I would take the totally opposite approach. No media member writes the same story twice. No one makes the same movie twice. Nobody puts the same person or the same story on the cover of a magazine twice. And so if you want to be on the cover of a magazine, if you want to have a movie made up about your startup, create your own story. Don't try to replicate someone else's. And so being yourself is the way to do that, right? If your story, if the way that you go about everything you do is interesting, somebody's going to cover it. But what they're not going to do is cover the company or the person that goes in there trying to be what they read or what they watched from someone else. And so, write your own book.
Great, guys. Thank you so much for all your advice. And David, we'll see you in a few days. Is this your first trip to Ireland?
It's my first trip to Ireland.
The weather is incredible. Pack light.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Alex. Bye, David.
Patty, I would be there for the new building in the way next year.
Oh, okay. Bye.
All right.
Guys, thanks so much for the time. Bye.